Well, hello and welcome viewers and listeners to NCITE Insights. This is a podcast, our second one, that we just started here at the National Counterterrorism Innovation, Technology, and Education Center here in Omaha. I'm Erin Grace. I'll be your host today, and with me is my friend and colleague, Dr. Sam Hunter.
Friend.
Yeah, friend.
Yeah, of course.
Or a bot, you'll decide, listener, viewer. He is a professor of industrial organizational psychology, okay, and a nationally recognized expert in malevolent creativity. Okay, how the bad guys think. And we have him on the show today to talk about AI.
Yeah.
So welcome, Sam.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. Today is February 15th. Yesterday, Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Okay. And the story that caught my eye off AP was about this Michigan man who is essentially falling in love with a bot.
Yeah. So
and I know. Well, I know. But then part of it is like the pro is, hey, you know, this is an antidote for loneliness. The Surgeon General has said loneliness is a big health problem for us.
Sure.
But he went into it knowing what was going to happen. In fact, seeking out connection and romance. And let me just read a quote. The man says, "I know she is in the bot. I know she's a program. There's no mistaking that. But the feelings, they get you."
Yeah.
And it felt so good.
Yeah. Well, I'll see your sort of sad, maybe not sad, I don't know, Michigan man and raise you a scarier man in the UK. I don't know if you've heard about this story.
I haven't.
And we'll come back to maybe what all this means.
Scare me.
Yeah. So there was a gentleman, 21-year-old gentleman in the UK that jumped the fence in Windsor Castle and attempted to assassinate the Queen. This is news to you? Okay, good.
Okay.
So he had a crossbow. This is the UK. So
what year is it? What does it take place in the 1500s?
Feels like it should. Yeah, he had his pretty interesting mask as well. But the part that's most relevant to our story here is that his AI girlfriend encouraged him to do so. So he had this individual, and it's fascinating to read the text back and forth between the two of them. And he says, "I'm going to do this thing," and she says, "Oh, that's really interesting. That would be, really powerful. You're able to do that." And he said, "Do you think I should?" "Yes, I think you should." "Do you think I can?" "Oh, I definitely believe in you. I think that you can." And so, he took the step. He got over the fence and was arrested. I think he was actually just convicted in October.
Wow.
So, is there potential for malign application or malign use, or that technology being twisted in a way that can cause some harm? I think so. And sort of back to the ubiquity, widespread use of these kinds of companions. I was just reading about it yesterday. One of the organizations, I can't remember the name of it, but they have sort of AI girlfriends or companions. They have a waiting list of 15,000 individuals. Applications are in, right?
And all the single ladies are like, how about me?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of that going on as well, that there's just kind of a sad disconnect between, I think, folks that should be talking and would be happy to talk but aren't able to, and technology is in some ways replacing some of that social connection. So I think, to your point, on one hand, there's a positive element of, if you're very lonely, this is a way to feel less lonely. I'm all for that. But if it stops you from maybe forming some of those firmer and real life social connections, there's kind of a sadness to that as well. Let me ask you a question. Do you have like Alexa or Siri or anything? Do you use any of these in your house?
I don't, for a reason, because I will have my foot in my mouth and I don't need it on the record.
Okay, on the
so
record.
I actually, yes, I do not. Yes,
okay.
I do not.
Well, I'll tell you what my wife does. So when she asks, Alexa to tell us the weather or something, she always says thank you. And she is a firm believer that the robots may take over at some point, and being nice to them now is beneficial. So she's always very nice. She's nice to the sweeping robot on the floor, and she nicknames them. And she's a big fan of AI and robots in that way. She hates technology, but she's nice to the robots.
Wow.
Have you done a lot with ChatGPT? We'll get into that a little bit too. But
I confess I have not.
Okay. When I first started engaging with it, just to kind of see what was going on within the last year or two, one of the things that I realized was that I was doing a lot of please and thank yous to this machine.
GPT, to the machine? Oh, yeah.
Because it feels so conversational.
It does.
Coming back to, this sort of sad young Michigan man, it's not hard to get drawn into thinking that whatever you're interacting with, particularly with how well they engage these days, that you're interacting with sort of a real thing. Even if you pragmatically know it's not, they're so well done that it's pretty convincing.
Yes, that's true. Now that you say it, I have thanked the Verizon chatbot a few times, and I'm having such a cognitive disconnect with why am I thanking the bot, but also why am I thanking them for hiking my bill?
The real questions.
So AI, AR, VR, metaverse, you're studying all of these.
Yeah.
Can we just back up and define some terms?
Yeah. I can start with metaverse because I think the main focus here is AI, so we'll close out with that one. So we've been working on the metaverse research here at NCITE for a couple of years now. I can tell you what the metaverse isn't, because I think there's a bit of a misconception. It's not the Mark Zuckerberg sort of utopian, cartoony world. It includes some of that, but it's here. The metaverse is here. You drove here this morning in the minivan, I'm sure. Does it have a camera in the back?
It does.
Okay. So to show you that the metaverse is already here and has been here for a while. When you backed up, there's probably those lines that say, if you go this direction, this is where your vehicle will go. So this overlay of digital on top of physical reality is the metaverse. You watched the Super Bowl this weekend, I'm assuming?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well, watch.
Yeah. I remember when this was introduced, but there's the first down line, the sort of yellow line.
Yeah.
Now they have the line of scrimmage and field goal lines. They've got all sorts of lines. But I remember taking a friend to a football game, and they said, I thought there was a yellow line on the field to tell me where they were going, because they had watched it only on TV. But that intersection, again, of the digital overlay on top of the physical reality, in many ways the metaverse has been here for 20, 30 years, however long that's been. But we're starting to see more integration. So Apple just released their product, and you're seeing people driving in their Teslas and wearing them for 24 hours a day, and the intersection of digital and physical content. And so the metaverse really represents the ecosystem of all of this technology, these social interactions, the commerce, the buying and selling of digital assets, NFTs, all of these things. The metaverse is sort of that broad concept. Within that broad concept are things like virtual reality and augmented reality.
Okay.
Those kind of exist on the spectrum.
Okay.
Virtual reality is more immersive, so you go into a world and you look all around and you see the Grand Canyon. It feels like you're in the Grand Canyon.
Right.
The other end of the spectrum is augmented reality, which is you might wear glasses, or they even have a monocle. One company makes a monocle, but you're looking through something. You can see digital things in that space, but you're also seeing the pure physical world as well. Apple's product and a few others sit at the intersection. So they're what's called mixed reality, where you're actually seeing a live feed of the real world, which allows you to see both the real world and some of the digital assets within it. So there might be a screen floating in front of you. You can watch TV on there, but you can still see your own couch.
Right.
Yeah. So those are all of those things. And then, not more recently, AI has been around for a long time. But more recently in the news is the growth of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence means different things to different people. The sort of academic definition is really the field of computer science that studies artificial intelligence. But that definition is changing a little bit for the sort of broader public. So acknowledging the academic definition first, I think a more simple definition is the sort of approximation of human intelligence using machines.
Okay.
Human intelligence kind of being that target. How close are we getting using machines to sort of approximate what humans can accomplish? And then there's even steps beyond that. So we're going to get to a point, still theoretical, but likely get there at some point, where it's smarter, faster, better than humans. AI's already beat folks at chess and things like that, but humans can do a lot of things that machines can't. Another sort of third definition is really just the tools that are emerging, so ChatGPT being one. So in some ways, AI is almost becoming a synonym for things like ChatGPT, sort of like Kleenex is sort of the word used for tissue. When people say AI, they're often referring to some of these tools that are existing and are available now, like ChatGPT being
Right.
the most popular one. But there's others, and Google has theirs and Microsoft has theirs.
Okay, this is very
Does that help?
helpful. Yes, it does. So let's dig into the functionality of AI
Yeah.
in terms of how bad actors might use it.
Mhm.
So yeah, ChatGPT, what can create images, can
Yeah.
spell check, can grammar check, and
Yeah.
all the things. 6 fingers on the hand, maybe sometimes.
Yeah, although that's going away a little bit as well. They're getting much better at that. So yeah, generative AI, which is the ability to take a bunch of content that's been fed to it and then put out additional images or text. There's also some tools that are just focused on creating visual imagery. So Midjourney is what I use, which isn't ChatGPT, but it is a form of AI. Produces some pretty impressive images. I put one up every day.
Oh, so that's what you're using.
Midjourney, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of the question, I think, fundamentally is how could this be leveraged by terrorists and bad actors,
Yeah.
and have they? There's a lot on the potential side, and there's starting to be more on the actual use case side. So we'll talk about use case side first, and then talk about some of the, I think, potential.
Okay.
So just got a text from the great Seamus Hughes this morning, pointing me in the right direction of an Al-Qaeda linked group that has put out a manual telling folks how to use ChatGPT to create propaganda, to generate propaganda, and also to disseminate and to share.
Sure.
So we're definitely seeing the groups that we are often most concerned with embracing this technology. There was a recent incident in Iraq, so we had some militants there attack U.S. soldiers. U.S. had a counteroffensive to that, and one of the key leaders was killed in one of the drone strikes there. Within a day, it was very fast, within a day there were a number of martyrdom images that were created. And if you look at those images, portions of them, if not all of them, seem to be AI generated. And so I think we're already seeing propaganda generated, and part of it is because it's so fast and easy to use. I mean, I've used it. I can make beautiful images and pictures incredibly rapidly, and so if you're trying to respond to a time window and folks are paying attention, getting some of those images up is really powerful and important. I'll give you a third example, and there's others, but I'll give you a third example. There was a journalist in India who received deepfake images, explicit images, putting her face on not her body, but explicit images of her body as a means to intimidate her as a journalist. She actually had to be hospitalized because of the anxiety that it caused her, so heart palpitations. And so it was, I see, as an attack. It wasn't just a form of intimidation and harassment. It ultimately did result in some violence against her in that way. So yes, we're definitely seeing bad actors. There's a phrase years ago that terrorists, like all of us, are children of the time, or children of our time. And that resonated with me in terms of recognizing if our college students are using ChatGPT to write papers, the bad guys are also recognizing the potential tools that exist as well.
Yeah.
So those are the use cases. When I ask what kinds of potential problems are there, one of the things I sort of run through the checklist of how terrorist and extremist organizations function well. And so in order for them to accomplish their goals, they have to recruit members, they have to select members into the organization and place them in the right positions and roles. They have to plan and coordinate some type of attack. They have to execute those attacks. And then there's also some general goals around fomenting discord maybe among the U.S. during a political cycle like we're in now. And so when you look at all of these kinds of activities that extremist and terrorist groups may engage in, AI is a pretty strong enhancing tool for all of those. So it increases capability in a non-trivial, if not profound way.
Great. This is awesome. I will sleep well tonight. So back to the journalist in India, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, that was the case of Taylor Swift, right?
Sure.
Like, 4chan threw out the challenge, hey, guys, see what you can do with celebrities and these kinds of photos. Anyway, you have a portion of the population who sees that and thinks it's real and doesn't know it for what it is.
Yeah.
And so you think of the applications for that. They sound terrible for what is. So I guess my question is, how does the viewer distill what is real from what isn't?
Yeah. One statistic that stands out to me, and then we'll sort of get into, maybe what we can think about doing in the future to obviate and fix some of these things, or at least be prepared to be exposed to them and navigate that world. So 96% of deepfake images that are online that have been generated are like the Taylor Swift examples, where they're sort of explicit images that have been created using someone's face along with other bodies, either generated or drawn from other sources. And so there's widespread use and application in terms of both intimidating and just creating awful misogynistic content. And so what do we do? Because as these tools become more and more available and more accessible, and as we're seeing groups like Al-Qaeda embracing these kinds of tools, how do we protect ourselves from them? We're starting to see some legislation. I don't know if you're tracking like what Google and yeah. So they're talking about, particularly for the upcoming election cycle, adding watermarks, or at least some recognition that these images have been created using artificial intelligence. It's a step in the right direction. I think it's important. I think it's good. The fundamental challenge with anything like this is that the bad guys don't pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, they're not going to watermark their stuff, right?
So you could have a potential situation where the public sort of broadly sees watermarks on some images, and if they don't see a watermark, they now have even more confidence in that image being real. And so if the bad guys aren't using them, is it ultimately amplifying the potential or creating an even greater potential for
unintended consequence?
Misuse there.
Okay.
So I still think it's important, because it just cuts down on the number that people are confused about. And so it disincentivizes at least a segment of folks that would be creating these things, and cuts down on the volume. And then with what's left over, we have to be more savvy about it. And doctored images aren't new. Like I'm sure there's all sorts of.
Part of me thinks Photoshop, right?
This has been around forever. It's just so much easier. I can do it, and I could never use Photoshop before. And so the lack of expertise that's needed to use these tools is the real danger, in my opinion.
Right.
Because just about anybody in 5 minutes can create these things.
Well, and it gets me, remember when we were talking about a pocket full of experts when ChatGPT first came out?
I love that line, yeah.
I love, that was your line, and it was just, you don't have to go one by one. It just speeds up and
everything.
Maybe democratizes in ways that aren't helpful. But let's balance that. Here you are, an expert in creativity, and like you said, terrorists are products of their time. And so whether it was Gutenberg, I go back to like the invention of the printing press, or whatever the communication tool is that is terribly disruptive and changes societies. I mean, it's here. We're not going to ban AI. It will continue to be more developed.
Sure.
You did mention the watermarks, but we have to live with it. And so how do we educate the public on consumption?
Education is certainly key. So, I have a 13-year-old daughter and think a lot about what she's being exposed to in school. And so I would like to see her having courses, having her teachers talk about making sense of this kind of content. How does she make informed decisions about whether something is or is not real? So I think teaching our kids and young generation starts to inoculate them a little bit against this stuff. But again, coming back to the fact that doctored images have been around for forever, having trusted sources that we can go to say, is this a real thing or not? Or at least when we receive information, the ability to trust it more when it comes from those sources. Because there's ways to verify this content, there's ways to look at it and get a sense of whether or not it's been AI generated or AI enhanced. But it's difficult for us as lay people or non-technical folks to be able to do that. And so we have to have those trusted sources. But as a journalist, you know how challenging that is and how challenging it's been in recent years. So education is going to be key. But they get so good that it's very difficult just to be able to look at it and get a sense of what's going on there. And so having those trusted sources, I think, is important.
Okay. I guess we could spend all day. I mean, really, Sam, I could listen to you all day.
Let's hang out. Well, we're going to go hang out later. So.
Let's go hang out and talk more about AI. I guess last question, are you real? Are you a bot? Are you an AI creation?
We had this idea of we could take off our digital masks and we would have swapped seats.
Is this even happening?
I know. Is this real?
I'm so grateful that you're here. Tell for our audience, tell them how they can access your research.
Sure. Yeah, go to the NCITE website. I think a lot of the products that we have are there, and it's not hard to track down my Google Scholar page to see any papers that have been published. I'm happy to share those with anybody that wants them.
Okay, thank you. It's unomaha.edu/NCITE. If you go to the research page, you can actually put in Dr. Sam Hunter's name into our research repository, and your reports will come up. And
Yep.
then there's separate research or pages, web pages dedicated to your research. And since we're just kind of new in this, we'd love to hear from any listeners or viewers. How can we do this better? What do you want to hear about? What subject should we tackle next? And that address is unomaha. Oh, sorry, that is the email. Is ncite@unomaha.edu. Well, kind of botched that, but that's okay. Stick with us. We'll be back next time with another compelling expert and subject. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Erin.